really pushing kind of about need here this morning. My name is Megan Kingston. I'm sleeping here in Hillsboro. And I wanted to just a quick minute and tell you why, what they're doing with kinds of becoming self-motive. When I was here for 4 years in the ago, the council said, listen, you have to look off the streets, and we need you to city staff to try to focus on and that ended up and discovered that we had a much bigger, much more expensive street problem than we realized. And it's going to take probably decades to really get things the way that they need to be. But shortly after that, we discovered that the problem with our water lines is that waste is bad, waste is expensive, and probably worse than components. Even in the streets. And it wasn't long after that we started looking at the wastewater system as well, also bad. And we haven't even really gotten to an evaluation of drainage, but we know that there are places where it creates street flood, there are places where people's houses, those houses will flood. All of these infrastructure pieces, somehow the city got behind. And we got behind not last year or 10 years ago, but decades ago. And we are on the wrong side of a snowball and it's building and building to the extent that I feel like Indiana Jones running from this. And we have been in a pretty, I don't want to say stagnant, but in a pretty flat place population-wise for a long time in the city of Hillsboro. But right now, we are beginning to experience growth, and it looks like we're going to have significant more growth here in the next, 5-10 years. This, to me, is our critical opportunity, our cannot miss opportunity, because when new growth and new investment is coming in, we have the opportunity to either help that serve us and get on the right side of the cycle, or create bad decisions that make it even harder to catch up. And so we just felt like it was hugely important to get some very good, strong advice. And that's what they're doing with the comprehensive plan. And Evan Shepard from Virginity, Catherine Linares from Virginity, are going to talk a little bit about the comprehensive planning process and why it makes such a big difference, and why if Hillsboro is going to get on the right side of infrastructure and be able to create a better quality of life, where when I say west of Cho, people don't know why that's bad. That would be great. They're going to explain why this process is so important, but the last thing you need to hear me say is, they are experts, and they're blessed to have them working with Hillsboro, but they aren't you. They know the outside stuff, but only you guys know the inside stuff. Only you know who Hillsboro is and what Hillsboro needs to continue to be in order to remain the community that we love. We need to know what to protect and what to build on as part of this planning process. And that's why you guys being involved is so important. We don't want a plan that would serve anybody else. We want a plan that would serve Hillsboro. So thank you for being here. It's a tremendous investment in your community. There will be more opportunities to be involved. Please do, because no one of us is as smart as any two of us. And when you get a bunch of us together like this is gold. So thank you so much.
And we're built. Well, after at this point. Hey everyone, my name is Kathy Gutt. I have applied for the Hillsboro Property Fencing Plan. Kathy was here shortly, but I want to clarify that I've got with the back licensed trader is also on the team, and the goal to see is currently the boss process. Going to the free signature. He started? Wow. Yeah, welcome to the gift space. Your time and your cousins because as making said, visit or outlet you that it should be fine. You let here to give you resources, data, insight, and case studies on all their places. Take that, take those elements to the look for and then the guidance, the kind of scoop way of form. So looking well prior to get to next month, but we'll be going over is what is the full redemption fund. Going a little bit over the project timeline that it will not be can see free on the screen, but there is a board a thread that you want to look at again. I think what we talked about one of the main customary in the for basically a short history lesson of what we used to do, how we got citing that, and then kind of get to break that back into. I will say this is not a like unique problem. This is something we have seen throughout the entire country. So it is within hopeful in regards to the various possibilities that we keep. So what is it is a fundamental document that provides a snapshot of what the city looks like currently, but then it incorporates the different needs, wants, aspirations of current residents and future residents. So what we looking at, it's 35 that we are, but basically a combined section here, financial writing. This plan will also be used to speak with the recommendations for policy, budget, as well as our mechanism for your state council, query and feature, as well as city council. You make decisions that are in line with what this community overall. So it will look at the growth, location, accessibility of different types of developments, certain developments of what we want together, others who are at the where, then what type of tolerance you all have for it. They'll provide foundation for economic development policies. This is something that your EDC and not elected corporation, again, the STIP staff, and the STIP political, all the ways of like working at, new employers, but also looking at how to what's a big further, for the like all of this. All these like currently here, then you can shift that business for them. Then at this decision making festival, that is something that we will be delving into review along community. That then there's a couple of leadership for music, and then this will then when they consider. This was in the travel also allowed this vision of roles and one of things the sick audio it started as a distributor, but everyone around residents do business owners and they do outside developers, local developers, and federal like is that it's the typical helpful documents that put them over the past years. So background to the phase one, like just to take off on project and people first. This is our first year to get acquainted in person with Hillsboro. We've been asking and do vaccine self-based compassion and spiritual. I was in the ability to do staff as well. We also have a survey that is out to three to let off to state expert health care, central for faculty, friends, leaders, lower. The more data we have, the better of a placement we get on how the whole proceed the different elements of the world currently. And what happens with the state of but also what our areas of influence. This comprehensive kind of will-being entirely a matter was assisted process for such a level will be the violence and second will be major such for updates. The complement will separate at least 5 pages, and responding will be one of the distributed throughout all 5 pages. So the kind of once I say that we can, say like easy and done, we'll actually just advise it academically, not as the pages. So here I have welcome to Iron American Shepherd, and he looks like he wants.
It's good talking to you. We'll get it after maybe. Last time we had one of these chairs full of back to back to you. But that was like, not after they want us to make sure we get as many people here back as possible. And I'll try to hold this like more really well. Last Wednesday, this great news that I've been the president of this box by best times. I feel like most of this is the same each time, but very it's a little bit of a difference. But one last night we reported. So we made something here did on the big lots of us, the curious little things, the else the year. That one last night I reported, I don't know when or where I'm sleep, but probably the website, like big out of it. What's the website? I noticed it. Hillsboro's 35. Use budget put 5 for timeline. This will go to Robin's Spike News. So, my name is Dennis Upward, the founders, over the IG. We're going to hear a little bit about this. We're going to, like, we started the it's out here. Fiscally informed AA, and closing the resource gap that this thing I've talked about. So, I'm going to sit with you, I agree. First, the last year's in my career was spent up in North Texas, Dallas area, designing cities like your state and ranges lives. We're a little bit of my view that I'm not going to work. At any engineering school, we're taught figures that are priceless, family, but we're not taught how our cities that page, maintain stuff after it gets made. Sitting up here about stuff, design society stuff. 2008, 2009, I had perception of the opposite to interview for it and die. All that's for greatest cake. And so I went from what we're like engineering to bro. These ability at any place downtown Buckeye Pointers. That was working around the train. And one of the things across over Stevens, big city, small city, girl, urban square, and there's most of those left, right? It doesn't matter. Most of this news country now happen on any maintain that of the source. So I started to got out coastal life down at Detroit, and then I'll go somewhere like somewhere in California, and I want to look at research about Dallas. I started to have this thing going in my head of like, what are we doing different at Texas that's going to keep us from ending up like Detroit or Memphis and Street or whatever it is that you're attaching this as like you're like this. And the answer is not much. We're actually doing it what we do in Texas, bigger and faster, right? So ultimately, 2011 decided to leave that belt on Sparkler City. I did from the take while less than across the country. Focused on Texas, used resources, and that's the only blanket rates drive that we're blessed to have in Texas. So it's changed the way we're developing so it be more sustainable walk country. The first company into that, it's like, yeah, and anywhere else in Texas, go big. But as you can see over time, like this message started to scoot. We've done a lot of work all over Texas, and now we're being asked to go to other parts. And well, it's not surprising, but most people care about building sending seats. So this is hand. So what does that really mean? You look at a lot of cities, websites, deep plan, tax companies, and list first of new things. We want to be fiscally responsible, or we are fiscally responsible. We want to be American neighbors, like we want to be psyched as we want to be. We want to provide high quality black artists. We want to percolate affordable housing. We try to afford. But when you look at the cities, you look at our costs, you look at our developments, you look at projects through way we build our business. The incentives are developed, pass them out. They rarely design, they rarely align with these outcomes. They can come drill down a bit more. What's that mean? But when you go to a city and Kirktown, I've been asking, especially for almost 15 years now, when it comes to managing growth and development in your city, what is the biggest challenge or frustration we're dealing with? About 90% of the folks in the city, sign up their needs, growing wants, needs, per residents with limited resources. Now there are some out there that will say, there's this now over our local would be the Stewart, but Hackford, Delaware, Western as well. But I would tell you, place over 5 connected cities across this country. There is cities that waste money. Most cities are very, very stressed. Your city, especially your staff, are very stressed. One of the best staffs. We could talk about this. Your staff in this case that are some of the best white. Very, very smart people that get it. We have usually the process is we have a lot of resolute staff that understand this issue, that understands that like the way you're throwing it is that anyone understands. Here it's the crisis tongue out of your bread or safety content of us. Listen. But how we address remote once and use around being with limited resources. So this is the question that I was asking the experiment. All the cost to the United expense, why not? But on my city, it's not like bigger. I could go out to Lakewood County, I could go to Texas, I could go to the federal. We don't have to find the needs of maintain all of the steps of this built in this empty. So I will show you back at an accident all kinds of these processes to prove that up. And the question is like this is part of why in our liberties have a free world wars and see, let's say pre-1940, we took it with the foreign, the wares were built is incrementally with the resources you have. So out to the town, state the town, build a little bit. That's how it goes. Build it with cements. It was, we built it as we go with the resources. So, post-World War II, and then some automobile was housing costs and stuff, and all of a sudden we decided to, we could go buy it, but it's some nation out, to somewhere, punch a road to it, and all this kind of help us we build up a bunch of city and this stuff, big area, and storing that on ice. And so off agency guardian, with something from strong time, not from one area to stop comes, or they do a lot of great advocacy work for long crop even where it does a lot of across the country, but with some followers, it's a privilege to there. It's a neighborhood to get mutilated to go, Elvish terrible place to decorate and explore. And so we built after and subdivisions all over the country with or period of that I can. What we did at Peterbilt, we were chasing this all of black citizens. I was up to work Texas, and so we're very sort of virtual chasing nights to drive the road, chasing only in the wrecks, but all the black stuff. This house, the on-track box, all 75 middle. Impacts especially water, 3 times water supply, you take water all and also sufficient sleep as good as excellent. My wife's a therapist in Alfred. She talks to a lot of teenage kids that are in a bad place the way that their neighbors been fine. They care about their design of cars. But that in the spot. So it's that. I'm guessing on age of one of a lot of these not real different place the way that we were from when it comes to self-sufficiency. All of that being said, we built stuff. There's the grass farm, there's raising the police and the toxins, residents, the businesses found boards that develop the law. It's a what up matters, what we're doing. This is what I started to see. And that basically we're very live and very active. The immigrant communities, but when the city's drifting, and no one's to all the city oil. I said you fix the water lines was it fixed the sidewalks, like the streets, the people with the wealth moved out. They moved to the heads to find place. Upgrade listening to some of that today. Some of the folks that are big leaders, that's right there. They're leaving this outbase coming here, or they're leaving places. Got so crazy. I think we felt that also have your money. But coming years a good reason for what it is. But this all of our stuff. Government to get out of Texas. But there is more of this across the country that decide to get my stuff with. I guess 10 or 15 years ago, on a balance, it is more like it's in 80. that's part of why see what people Texas, Texas and Florida are really the largest speaker, not the opposite. A lot of you do. So how do we balance? How do we build this that's to afford to maintain? I would argue some people who can get a place to look back is that I'd argue that we're building cities that we can afford to live in as residents or make the afford to maintain as cities. This was back, and the reason for this is the development back. The thing that I've learned is where we build, how we get, what to build, going to build, all of those things together. At least I feel like I have long-term physical development for parts of this. This is how we use this is a historic this is from right here, just so this is peppermint on them in the like this was good illustration of what happened. But most cities have some version of this, and as we go through this process, probably be still more drafting cities for Hillsboro. Well, but this is our where it's getting started. It's usually a little instrument or a town square. You people come here, start going, the community center starts, and town starts to go over time, or people come there, each start at, and over time, this street, that's this. As you can see here, is what you'll see, study kind of was the cities. They were built incrementally out and built up, and they complied tents. So they would add another block, more people in it, they would start so people. The buildings, they might have a second story on the evening. And over time, you would see 1, 2, 3 story buildings along the street. The streets that keep walking and you see streetcar culture, right? This is the biggest thing today is actually really set on the buildings behind. You see like your parking lots up this side that's really red. If this is how we use it, right? No zoning codes, I would say, but this we built it incrementally, this we got the resources to do it. This is a neighborhood in Indianapolis, a favorite neighborhoods that I've seen and worked with. This is like we built neighborhoods. What you notice about that street on the left is it's a person may come out.
Yeah, he's coming.
But he's falling conference. Okay, and yeah, into it. So sorry, naturally same thing like that. So come there, the street eats, a lot of places you can go but fast. Like I want to buy this entire apartment, and you got to. What a down street does exist as it was sexy because of the beach. If you want to slow down down, make it what's it easier about to be down. And there where you make cottons, more stuff was being before the weather you so we spread that and they built the rec wider and spread that out. Well, it's locked into taps. Lake parts probably the sides, lines to build so down dive. You got really wide about that teenage drivers up. If you have them, but then it doesn't drag a lot of time. So when you build wider states, one thing very expensive, I'll talk about that. But also safe as air was consumed. The other thing when you look at older neighborhoods is where you see on the right is the design houses. There used to be one emphasis on front porches and kind of eyes on the streets. You have a lot of that disparate. There's a lot of advantages to stuff like this. There's also a lot of less change to kind of account. This is old tradition. This is how old the person.
Like you can't sure.
You're all thing. I see. So today, as tomorrow, subdividing its friends stuff how we parts of the box. So to separate leases, we tend to instead of front porches, we have back porches because we got that's the backyard. Because either the home of the best in backyard, the main front porches, the both that's matched in there. And everybody gets a big quantity of they did by slavery. But when you go to things more spread out, it requires more driving. When you require right, you need that business on the front, big parking lots, a big cross, lighter and when more people parts of their get drive where you leave. So top right is more energy, it's more highways, more environment good. Like at least just all of those. a lot of people do not in Texas. And when I'm happy, I'm Texas. These are Pacifics. We have some great, crazy highway. This is super headscape. It's just so other, but all of this is for most people a sustainable development. I could say this is like in Victoria, Texas, do this or do all we just every city or do like that. But in Victoria, this is back in 1890. This is their core square, the original part of their city. Very small square. You go see, you can't see it on here. It's never going to look. It's the dairy to just get great, very narrow squeeze, very small blocks. There are oxidized speeds that are this obviously that are made well 10. Like 210 to 20, like 30 and 40. This Cali, this is the Carmela drought. Look like, but with what happened, like some tests to get which can tell, you get better. But you get me. So this is the obvious sensor experience I'm talking about. So for all there's all the patch, all something layman's people drum off was what happens is when you extend your service area like that you're taking on more roads, more water, consumer trains, more parks, more fire stations, for water tower, or like more stuff that you have to serve, bigger area, you have to serve this fire, more stuff you have to take, test. And at the same time, but when you build it in a certain outweigh, you're lowering the density population this year. You're adding the costs. The cost per household, the cost per person is going up. You can do that to your household, you're being straight out cost. That makes sense. Yes, no. So in Victoria, this area 13 times their population only grew by. So they were adding dentists, they were adding all this service area. Well, they were in the people were there for writing skirting amongst this were all take skirted with cross side. So they two were black and what possible they are still across their awful what in those out. It's like your population you do not prepare about this service. Very large, strong spirit population that you got. You can't come this border there, you have this east-west out. Like take one no, there's higher density, that's additional powder that will mark the block target in the smaller blocks over development. And then in the north and the south, you got to walk and spend out say, like walk get this north or west and stuff, south, the south, some block and it's like in Valbrose, you'll be going in. So that's a very spread out powder, and it's a very low density. Like not got you got the so trying to look at how a lot of the studies US back what's special about US what is or grain peasants we start out the small town have a small bank started from small display area you all have a lot of population out there and then you get to the middle of their in 2000, same population developers supported by electronics to keep here about the birds that in marketing and values very topics we started. So developers unless they start to build a lot of these negatives. Everything that comes like it, water suits, schools, the sub basic parts, all like so like it's a builder to look at study a lot of cities, a lot of this growth is absolutely over that things over that 20 years. And so in that phase, it's like that you have an 10 out, we still a lot of this stuff. Say the average age and the starts of the average age of the city, we started to drive with them to buy or these schools, artists. Like, well, this is the best place basically when it's like all the people that get these words. Everybody wants to do your fastest growing city, all that stuff. Like, we go out and talk. And so they have all the courts, they're a big part of the city. It's about a historic or a choice. But as we continue to go to the right on the spectrum right now, we create to think so the population is the black top. It's Asia, but red bay for the growth impact, which well don't have. We've been talking about big about, but the right additional property tax, the sales tax, all of that's just a flat if the development's just down. Anybody know about typical street blacks? at dusk. Volume, but and the old streets made 10, 20 years to populate them on near streets to get corner, thick here, shady and bars, things take a thought. So mention I took a thought when we got in, right? Let's go spending the party years forward. That's what you do for them. It's just like a run out to that with the and develop war and speak down that like somewhere else. The person is all of that stuff of like it's 20 years, 30 years, 3 years, but all those things, all of that thing you have to be dedicated real quick at the same time. So this is what Detroit, this is what of Chicago, this is what Streetport, and this is like this the inlet. Now a lot of that Christian subway in the Dallas area, Lake Yelp, and Erie Dominance, and the already like those a little rivers. So even parts of Dallas will work better. They're in space, whether they were built or in its abilities, such as what the public are. And now all of that stuff, it's not preventative maintenance. It's not a fixing a pothole, fixing the crap. This is the old street, I stuff from a rebuild. This water lines, rebuild, this drain, rebuild. And it all got things with that 5 7 distance, right? And that's where safe. That's I think we come up and save for this. And then like say we save the money. And it is so that's the for instance like I don't not just double it. We got a triple part of the tax. We got first we got I don't know we ranks water in the sewer.
So it's what
I felt sweating that to play. There's the good cost. And you go from preventative maintenance to we have to rebuild. And that was such factor is not called through when you were building all of this or the combo sectors spread out stuff. We as engineers were designing. We spoke on what is the cost up front. You focus on lifetime. I was tax base if I meant that in the up front. We don't talk about it's being cost $1 to $2 million maybe comes to people Dutch name. Like typical cost just a sidewalks, the water and the sewer, nothing else, just the you build. You have a 30 streets built wide state, but it's purchasing. Correct. Is that yourself? That state is $86 million a lot on to so one of the things I had to be obviously I stopped and tell this video analyst about so much just to rebuild the streets in Hillsboro right now. That's one of the biggest stories we've seen, I think I was a little bitter, but based Brownsville, Texas, we did that back in 2018, I believe. Just to rebuild the streets back then, and $1.2 billion, $65 million, and they were spending for That's the kind of gap this car setting, cool, basically. So if you acknowledge our risk goes down, if you acknowledge that, hey, we have what can you do about it? Simplify it. First one is tax. Raise your hand or things. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's psychologists will do so. This is what we do now. Every year for budget, every year goes around invest. And you do with less staff, we get everybody gets. And let me say, what we have funded into the Dutch. This is what we do. That's what I think actually we just started as here, yeah, but that's just when you do that, convert over. But nothing's happened. Eventually, the return making swab about it starts to look like this. Let's see, the streets, they'll just start to fail. Sidewalks, start place parts, love those, and people think out. And so that's on the best of the computer. Or not, but that. Focus in this conference because after we develop walk well. After we develop them way, we use heroes that are bubbles. We did as the so that they can close these resource apps instead of leaking together. Writing things that aligning statistical development, I don't know, Sally's law, but actually aligning all of that with what those things are willing and getting to back. So some people might be able to pick one, but they're not leaning. Some people might say they're living, but they're not able to. And so we have to find a way to align creative development in Hillsboro. So the folks here and to support this pending, sending to the forest and doing that requires trade action. If you want stable services, public, base, fire, water, sewer, what stable services, you want low density, you want low time. That is my step up of all three of these. Sorry, everybody wants that. A lot of people want. So you can add one step of services and you want lower density. You'll have to take more insights. If you want low tax, stable services, that's the way to get that. And we use, not a lot of people use that app. People understand this about traders. They could either be talking about value trading or various things. That's the way that can be based on it. I'm saying to you the development path. I'm thinking about going into this with big pots, but they just start we're maximizing development, existing infrastructure. You're raising a taxable value, you're raising complexity, city of its list is actually like one of the things for a city. You have a big lot settled, and it's a fully served. It's got street frontage, it's got water, super quick use, all things, police park, fully served use, big lot sitting here. That way, plus clean, they want you in there, so it goes up and probably they can to sell up. If they're investing, that's actually costing the code taxpayer knows problem. Every big block that's fully served is costing less than that period. So fiscal sustainability is a problem. So you're going to hear through this process. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about mixed needs, mixed being suburban residential, rural estate, different kinds of neighborhoods of different place types. Everything, right? Design, bike and walkability, parking lots, big box and development, and something. All of these different things can be put through alignments. It's all here at the ECC. They all bring revenue to the city. They all have been published. And so after that we do all of these, where we come through away. One of the things that is all going to provide today's kind of. I like to say here that all of us are a team that they part up into house true. And with jumping to a city and want to boost the other groups do this all the time. Is start this process. Let's dream about what do you want this person to be? And you get a lot of testing kind of stuff. But we want to do like this, want it. And let's base wants. That we just to hear about it. And people also tell me that there's things affections. But what at least you said, you're going to find it hard. Well, it's not hard again. If I just ask them, he's that question, what you said. Yeah. To quoting Stin. But if I sing that question and said, okay, you're a millionaire, you have 2 kids, you have 30 minutes with your thought, you made $80,000. Now what part? Have to completely. But it's a completely different way to think about that question, right? Same thing for civic link. We just say what you want at what grows is not the same. You might say, well, but if we say you have $800 million for streets that you're on like, and you have, I don't know how much water, strip, there's just great pleasure. It's to be. Now I say, how do you want to think? It's a different compensation, right? So that's where we're trying to start. There's some real strength. There's almost a little bit of water supply with sound is very public. There's a real constraints on applicants whether seeing drugs with girl at the infrastructure through that one street level. How do we do that? Land is fiscal analysis, that's all those technical plans. But what this means located rebuilt leased properties, the mother in revenue, leased property cost to serve. And using that, they figure out which fund is what. This the often patterns, which ones not, and then how we live that way. It's just like the first investment pool. You might invest things that it can the city want to build different kinds of development places. So I think they can close that reason. And how do we do that? We have 8 per acre mapping. Simplest way to explain this You take very thoughtfully associated about wealth generating profit tax brackets in the city. That was some comments that's probably can repay in property taxes for their growth. Then we allocate like thoughts about the city of us to allocate these back to the person who is above. We divide this on sign of person. We take revenue of mean like an acres to be a cook at rate. Yeah. This is Dallas County. The greatest bars, highest bars, ones with the highest rate there. Actually, then we're down by Dallas, reasons. What's interesting with this study is county goes out, it's Harris goes second or somewhere, something. Some of those places, down in here or down in here, but there. But that's the like place affluent suburbs, but they're ignored. And they see so we take away from these urban centers with all the talent that's going on, they're still this whole part of our demand. Like still the rate of popular fees and others for us to come in. We're down in these urban centers. Most places, you don't have this big salary that's $700 worth, right? So this is something that's very have to study on. But so revenue rate down here is where it's fun. Okay, so here's about this located for the first East Coast for us all. We're going to do a couple of plans. You start with revenue cars, CDC, system revenue side. I think it's pretty cool. Letting out acre kind of eight. First pricing it. And then per acre count, what some people call cost investment. And that thing, it's everything here is green, it's generating more than cost of surgery, with what cost for surgery is bringing it in the title. The support routes will look like for their high budget. And then what we do is the second stuff, so we add in what is linked up. His brand, well, I put one thing we did for the string. Crowds and add them underneath. Like, so we didn't do anything else but the street coverage good. Right? So we did there's also the streets. But if Brownsville happening and they need it for streets, this time, doesn't happen. So this is what they have. That's what they need. And so what they do with this is not let the same weather. What if the properties could get it to stay positive, even when you have more costs? And then you start to understand why, which one you want to. We look at one prior cost or water or other costs, which ones think about. Of the concepts of until you think about based on this part of the process, still, if we have, we got to have lots of one is rate revenue. Like, how do we raise costs? How do we raise revenue? How do we adjust the tax rate? One of the ways, put more blatant income. So you have a piece of property, when we're building, you have all that block and then it's the trade-off is to pay more building a little bit. You have less work. If you're more building a little bit, you have less guard, less creativity, right? So parking, any space, just take away from tax value or buildable cost. The cycle that's here for people that is just going right. Here as a family in a neighborhood, you do like the same lots, the same size. A one-story house, two-story house, a three-story house, right? They need to go out of bird. I need my three-story to the side. Why? We've never done this. I have thought a little bit about this that this everything, if you just like to go down everything you knocked out, just stories, and maybe some of the decorative dropped down was this stories, you have a pretty good shot on the story. But we got so much of the story here, but so much once they're spread out stuff. Got to break this down. So just how much bill can you put on poverty and cycle? Hussein's a Chinese value without the sense of fact, right? Another chart can be still just a power of soup. It's a chart that lists where it's what you're looking at here is just for single family. You go across on the smallest lot from the left, hardest lots going right. Blue bar value goes on the hot side strength. And then the blue line goes down the left to right is the revenue acre for each of those W's. But this smallest place, for almost all is it's affordable for the business. And you have a high scoring per acre of the city. But we don't, you would try your welcome pattern that you would try to we don't build the small split. This they've got to figure out that it's a point about an expert 3M's square things and figure about it. But a lot of developers that want to build, like here, well, they'll like 2,500 to 3,000 square house on 30 acre block with could want to take supply touch whole side up to it stuff. But it's an absolute money that would say it's very much in demand. But we want it from the city side so they can the math does not. If you go larger on the side, and what you're building the state stuff, it can't work if you're helping stuff like that. Yeah, if you have part of the state is $4 they can start to cut some up. You build a bunch of stuff in the middle, also not to build, also even more to end and the value to stuff. Post forward, the smash clippers was her and big and this fall can't doors. So the smaller commercial space in downtown, I guess, are also micro-economic for it requires me. So when we talk about cost of the deep cost of the house, this just shows this is a guy the problem that being safe is Greg Allen all methods that it's we admire about their wordings about the strategies probably that cold spaces. But if you ever see people's like water, sewer, state that all the same. All of this has to be paid for. Now on this block, you got to see them to distribute those costs. Top block, you got more use there. See that like how single family, but accessory dwelling, you get water, you touch them. That is the single bodies. But the following years, the more units you plug into the street, can spread the cost of that street across the so that's the block house and cost very often what that's been damage that so what does this mean for a top? I mean it's a couple of steps. First one right here is reading the baseline. We can identify you all that study your book property tax, it's like the longer sales tax. I would with polish your boat, see where you are spending right now. Where can you do that? But if you have to replace all of this new right now, what are you spending on it and all this? Like I said, that has to be up. And then to start past that point, I have this many drove out on the street, beat, and very for how many feel about it actually is hang through the guardian down the essence of that's the what part of has some banding. But then we're going to hopefully get to how the change the development. Looking all plan things here that so that we would generate a small helping actually enhance the quality of life. What we use most of not everybody that's here. So we start with this, we start to understand where we are. And we're going to start looking like saying, you just go establish these up that is very bank in some places, done the auto sector on you guys you're the top plan your previous ones like so then we got all kinds of things, but there's gonna be how many stacks for you to go and so we'll look at that. But what if we did figure out if we get more about raising on edge and we're assuming it was direct, right? But this could be what if both lists of maps fiscal products would be maximized and so maps what it's right on it goes consistently change so you have kind of those spectrums. Now thankful it's different first where what's the line when you throw in the device and you come to what the development was very basic to back was a big positives. Every that becomes about the for the security for customer like built rail and then we're I recommend this is that real like this next 10 years or where you are like RSP loss because of the some others. That's having 4 deeply as a housing in the lots of points, some of the candidates. Building things like that. If you want to keep housing before the long term, the house why? Or supply. And about eggs, how you can live what in that village state, it's for what? The reason housing inside. So the Both Coast, I do not know. Something is not my previous, but next today, it's California very cheap. This is what I was. See, when it's they slow down housing and getting they get top price down. It was now water sound, pizza, factory sound is down, sparrow, those for us. That's there's no more direct shells and things you can't build at more supply. And the question affects those things. We build that supply lines and help them out. Usually now that has infrastructure costs and some water, which happens. So trying to find ways to bid like this ever happened. It's not just a single family or see with a lot of stuff in others who are street places. Therefore, as this block the trail items, they just go over your faulty way. We've had this a lot of the record with arguments. So the word of walk trap while I and displays part. But building a one person that's constantly or ridiculous, prioritizing and build a lot of those with the solve that can be has the time. Some of the tools don't have to be that amazing. That so far about that really plus it pretty big marketing. I'm not saying this is okay, that's it's for Hillsboro, but you have to have the live work in here with the in something on but it's this is called still on work and about the business on competitors. Find it, these are a couple of small talent driving that this value this aggregate was to find you don't vote for in clients who are struck up straight at the adult was time and now arriving at this negative standard maximizing it stuff there. That's your city don't have certain none so play to it. Like they don't pass on non-CFS. But so like this single dog spent about making this 4 times stop. Say our stay is maximized for using like real life. Go and work back. That's your point though that it's doesn't do what when you go back to build stuff, you build it in a way that the support needs level is that they got it as a support or team that's all they did a little bit quiet. They just for making it time to read this awesome. We're don't know and support back sides to all workers and such invested. What and then the last one that here is just free investment they went I'm glad wasn't very nice against while others in Saudi take this solving subjects then like a net they were a source around the end I click the switch okay now there's most of it get this is one end of the office here government forward was gives a church over if they're called for the flock stuff button snake in Texas go to the next strong entry he's had a copy here a couple of times the web was on up for Gomez and escaping violently good and those were what we're doing here like software you need some of the tenants finding what it box servers out viewers and all of them I think what they like to see that and then what we're working on right now and they see that right in the free square talents I'm spent a great so they get so referent right and then so there's signs of I think it's this great like this neighborhood saying hey there's some particular problem so some don't worry yourself you're right close to this name and see so they get say who's on platform statistic but that you think with this mental stuff don't already it's hard to do like well tax is and stuff so something why you build so man God at town it's going to take water that gives us sort of oneness and the traffic and just doesn't draw it here it's just it was some back up tactical instead to be ones I have last a lot like the smallest precedents, like the biggest just something as simple as hanging anything I was like that's just something that I think so instead of a priest that we maybe a pop-up park right there stuff like maybe they'll pay and so like the acquisition green day everybody so yeah it's not like from the police understand but okay that you joke on me to break down there's a lot of things prior things both thoughts means right if we need progress speak these secrets on his step them build to go then can you see it so yeah it was fun summarizes things like I'm curious to cultivate this what else for the city why live on that road that down the city church they up all that execute things they use this but the house so well but the lower also want cultivating the boat alter she's like the book kind you what there's like house business we drove then the way those in other we developed this on sustained development lakes. The trick here, the challenge was that you go out and have a thing about the environment about it has to be done by lead in the fourth way. You're not going to get another time. Not to see the nice stuff wait for stones, right? They walk down, it's like 50 inches about how much that box get into the infrastructure. Hey, get these in your other house, all across the state by leaving, find out making these direct was eight. And we might find some people curious, don't listen to it, well, like that with me. What do you want to have? Then we have cultures, each of the study both more than one. If amongst people will, if you embrace that up. Because the city is the redland. Any main question on work on system on process as a key right. What's the vendors? If you have this good question last night, people without good come thoughts out the side, but we'll be here to go out up with that status. But we'd like to kind of load you on the problem, this big show up apart now. Or all that it's here, like remember one thing is involved in how do we have landfills and development expected things of it all. I would say don't follow wider. Hopefully keep that probably by that for the we're here below where that's the box things so we try to give people look out of this process, how we take their exemplar or how this any price that's appeared to all and makes this a better communication to you all. Another make one on deep part to keep this whole process understanding you what can see it and can shout out so they adapt this stuff and he would this process about this conference a bit need when the father okay license stuff. Especially if you guys take the time about today, the drugs related back to the episode.
Don't worry about the creator of the public. So, start looking to be project 1 second referral 3.5. That's their don't see eating and should to next week and one dollar value. There's still 5 times that they're brilliant, but they go as soon. We lost people further than it, but activity those that was enough also. More than 90, please, Thank you. On top of they have seen already the first it's already out. It's 16 projects that's right. So pretty stated and the brand leaders, experts such as now, again, the concept it's better at baseline like business work but the see was growth. And then this is this in transition. We are translating up a little bit in the first few months on survey, but again, it's been the year time to understand how they operate and how we're looking in the curve. So you need to as the same unit of staff leaders in that well flow, we're ascertaining everyone, not just but surveys running here in a week, that like the Lucas survey, and again, that will have us in keep it with that. They will have a local win survey either all so by the time have a more with that reputation is and the chick is that they work to enough people in the entire purely capital. And these are the sectors. So we one day will take in this slot. And then the other speech at law that we get to interact with. And then finish should be that also have not signed it to speak cited by at 8 being brought on the practice to be what they like to share with the but you have another questions at the end. Let us know we'll be here. So 1:30. You'll be really logging here. Thank you.
Thank you.